Hey, DJ, what can you tell me about the early American concept of a witch?
Yeah, let me think for just a moment. I'm in my mind palace right now. I saw that in Sherlock, and it's kind of been my whole personality ever since. Like anyone that watched Sherlock back in the day, with all due respect to you people.
I grew out of it.
You people, not like you people like whoever's listening to this.
Oh, okay.
I do like Sherlock. I've not finished it, but what I have seen is really good, really enjoyable.
Yeah, it is good.
Anyways, early American concept of a witch.
Hmm.
Man, I'm just looking for dumb ways to get to the joke witches get stitches, if I'm being completely honest, but I don't know that that's the most conducive to the episode. So essentially, here's my understanding. It's 16, I don't know, 12 or whatever. And so the earliest Blethen in America was in Salem
Hmm.
during the witch trials, like minding his own business, uh, which is how I try to handle kind of historical events, but minding his own business. So didn't play a role in it. He's not in, any of the. He's not in the Crucible or anything like that. But my understanding from the Crucible is that you get a girl about 12, and she has beef with someone, and so what she's gonna do is she's gonna go pop up in her house one day, all foaming at the mouth and stuff. And then when her family tries to figure out what has just happened to their precious little girl, she's going to point at like the one black woman that lives in this entire place. There are probably more. We have a pretty rough history with. Yeah. Anyways, she's gonna point at Tituba and she's gonna say, "She did this to me," and then the people are gonna think that Tituba is a witch, and so they're gonna do a number of tests, and not only Tituba, but also like John Proctor, because he slept with a child. Burn him at the stake, anyways.
Sarah Good, Sarah, the other Sarah.
Sarah,
Yeah.
all right.
Sarah Good, Sarah All Right, Sarah Bad.
Yeah,
Surprisingly, Sarah Bad wasn't a witch.
she was the only good one.
Yeah.
But you take them all and you do a number of tests like, hey, if they float, they're a witch. We'll kill them. You throw them in some water, and when they sink and drown, you know,
They weren't a witch.
whoops. So there's that. You burn them at the stake, and if they don't burn, they were a witch. And if they burn, whoops.
What's crazy is like most of the stereotypes we have about the witch trials are about the witch trials of England, not Salem.
Mm. Might I?
And go
Sorry.
ahead.
I just want to say, a witch, in the simplest terms, a witch is a woman who dies when you kill her.
And most of the people who we killed for witchcraft in America were men.
Or a man who dies when you kill him. A witch is a person who
Yeah.
dies when you kill them.
There are just some historical misconceptions about it. So I'm thinking actually after this. So in the early 1800s, the idea of a witch had actually changed a little bit.
Okay, so we're talking like Hogwarts. Okay, so you send your kid off. One day the owl shows up, and you're like, oh, not this again. So you go off to a little island in the middle of nowhere, and the owl is very persistent. And he knows, the owl knows where you live. So then a big hairy man shows up and essentially says, like, hey, these guys suck. You want to come with me, a literal stranger? And you say, you're a hairy wizard. And then one day you kill Wizard Hitler and die in the process, but kind of come back. It's a little confusing. Probably not the best bit of writing. And then the
Almost a Christ figure.
almost a Christ figure. That'll work, yeah. And then it's kind of weird. Like for a very long time, this whole thing is like very propped up by like kind of liberal folks, and then the person that wrote it all starts saying some stuff that makes those liberal folks very upset. And then it's like weird, like who actually is keeping this thing going? Probably just like the centrist ish people that like don't like really care enough about a lot of things to let politics impact what they enjoy and don't enjoy, is my guess. Anyways, that's the early American views on witchcraft and wizardry.
So a witch in the early 1800s was kind of a catch-all term, specifically in Appalachia. I do have to say we're in
Oh, okay.
Appalachia.
Sorry, we're in
for this.
Appalachia. From the top, a witch is a woman. Earlier I said a woman who dies when you kill her. Technically a woman who doesn't die when you kill her, but then you kill her. In Appalachia, though, it's different. A witch is what you call someone that makes a good gumbo.
It's anyone who can do math.
Like, what's up, my witch? Like, you might... Man... Anyways, in Appalachia, a witch is probably, I'm going to guess, a little woman lives in a shed or like a cabin out in the middle of the woods. Tiny little cabin, almost built like an outhouse. And she does her little spells and stuff. But like what they've only recently discovered, this is not kind of Appalachia. Her potions is just like methamphetamine. Like her feel good cure all potion, that is literal heroin.
It's opiates. It's opioids.
So
it's fentanyl.
Yeah. So, anyways, in the Appalachians, a witch is a man or woman who deals opioids.
So, a witch in the early 1800s in Appalachia was just kind of a catch-all term for a spiritual being.
Cool.
They would call like ghosts, demons, even angelic kind of things. Not angels, but it could be a spirit sent from God. Even could be a witch. But it was, in almost every case, it was a spiritual being sent by someone else.
Interesting.
So, for instance, the witch that we're talking about today claims to be the witch of another person in the town, but it's not that person. And it's not that person's ghost, because that person is very much alive, but it's also not a witch in the way that we would think of a witch. It's the spirit that they quote unquote sent to do the stuff. So that's kind of what the concept that we're talking about here. We are talking about one of America's most famous haunting encounters, so famous that it's something that like movies have been based on, books have been based on, and it potentially even includes a former U.S. president. But anywho, we are talking today about the case of the Bell Witch haunting. Have you ever heard of the Bell Witch?
If someone, without this context, if someone asked me if I'd heard of the Bell Witch, I would assume that it is like a TikTok video of 3 a.m. at Taco Bell, like a woman very out of her mind, like screaming, almost banshee yells, requesting food that she has not ordered or paid for.
Okay.
Or man.
Okay.
So no is the short answer.
Yeah, so the Bell Witch takes place in Tennessee. This haunting takes place in Tennessee, actually not very far from where I lived when I was in the Nashville area. And so what we're talking about is a specific family who encountered or were haunted by a witch, technically, according to the story.
Sure.
Now, to give just a little bit of background, there's this man named John William Bell Sr., commonly just called John Bell or John Bell Sr. He, in 1804, roughly, a lot of the story, the only dates that we know for certain are like December 20th of 1820 and a couple others spread throughout, and we'll get to why that is important later. But sometime in the early 1800s, where we assume most of the stories you say 1804.
Okay.
John Bell moved his family, which included his wife Lucy, their daughter Elizabeth, who went by Betsy Bell, and John Bell Jr., and Drew Bell, and a couple other boys as well. They moved to a farm in northwest Robertson County, Tennessee, on the Red River. It was a farm of roughly 320 acres, which what's crazy is like back then, I don't think that would have been a lot because this was in the frontier days of Tennessee still. And so like, I think they would have been able to get that pretty cheap. But like nowadays, thinking of like 320 acres of land in Tennessee, like that's so expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they moved to this land. And it is, like I say, it's kind of the frontier days. They had neighbors, they had friends in the area, but it was pretty isolated.
Yeah.
Like you're on 320 acres, you're not exactly close to your closest neighbors. And so like they lived kind of an isolated life. They were very, very religious. as many people in the area were at the time, as many people in general were at the time. But you've got these kinds of factors. You have that it is a family with a wife, a daughter, a husband, and a bunch of boys. So it's just interesting, everything going on here. But this is really close to what now is called Adams, Tennessee. And yeah, so they move here in roughly 1804. Like I say, give or take a year or two, probably. This is an area that they establish as the long-term Bell homestead, and it ultimately becomes the locus of a bunch of events that happen to this family. But nothing really starts for 13 years. So they're living here pretty steadily for 13
Great.
years, just making friends in the community, getting close to everybody, growing up as a family, just doing life on the farm. And then in 1817, things start to get a little strange. The first strange thing to happen is that John Bell Sr. is out and he sees what he describes as a dog with the head of a rabbit. I'm trying to picture that in my head, and it's just a very odd image. But he shoots at the creature,
Can we just
and it
sorry.
disappears.
ChatGPT will help.
It'll take a moment, won't it?
At first, I was like, "Oh, that's just a bunny," but like you look at it, and it's like, "Oh no,
That is a dog.
yeah,
Yeah.
the bunny head."
Okay. That's pretty good. I like that. I like that. Okay. But yeah, so he sees a dog with the head of a rabbit and he shoots at it and it disappears. Like it just fades away.
Like not disappears, like it bounds off. Is like
Yeah, no, like it fades away. Like
Nice.
it doesn't just run away, it disappears. Then his son, I believe John Bell Jr. Yeah, I don't have that one written down. I believe it's John Bell Jr. It's either John Bell Jr. or Drew sees a bird that is just an abnormally large bird. Like think of like a big bird, but bigger.
Show me an abnormally large bird. Think of like a big bird, bigger. On it.
DJ, you're going to get the Sesame Street big bird, but it's going to be the size of Godzilla.
I hope so.
That's just a cassowary, right?
Yeah. What an ugly animal.
It really is. That's probably not it. I'm imagining like a crow.
For the audio only listeners, I typed. Okay, but like a thick crow though, with 4 C's.
But yeah, so he sees that. He sees a large bird that spooks him pretty well. And then the daughter, Betsy, she sees what looks like a young girl wearing a green dress swinging in an oak tree. And then she disappears as well on the land.
Don't know that it's big, but it's thick.
All I can think of when I see that is burb.
It is the shape of burb.
I don't know why this reminded me of it, but it does remind me one time at like a pet store or whatever, she grabbed a bag of bird seed and walked up to one of the people working there and asked how long it took for them to grow. Which is so funny.
Yeah. Quality. Hey,
Anyways,
I know you're listening. Quality joke.
quality joke. Anyways, so they see these things that don't really make a lot of sense to them. And then the family starts to hear and experience things in the home. So like they'll hear these weird knockings on the walls. They'll hear other kinds of noises around the farm, like scratching and even growling sometimes, but nothing's there, or they can't find anything there, at least. Over the course of the next like year or so, really it's up until 1818, but so over the course of this year, the 1817, it gets progressively more and more intense to the point where they would hear all kinds of unexpected and unexplainable knocking on doors and walls. Things would be thrown in the house. The beds would be disturbed, like they would be shaken. The bedding would be, not made when it had been made. Physical assaults would happen, mostly to Betsy. Like her hair would get pulled, she would be slapped or pinched by hands that weren't there. And most of the physical attacks, for now, they almost all were toward Betsy Bell.
How old was Betsy?
I don't know.
Cool. I bet she was an age.
I'm going to look that up. Okay, so she would have been about 12 years old at that point.
Gotcha.
So I guess when they moved to the farm, she hadn't been born yet. I guess the kids hadn't been born yet, so they were all born on the farm. He had just moved there with his wife. I didn't look up the kids' ages earlier. That's interesting.
That's fine.
But yeah, so she was getting attacked.
Yeah.
She was specifically being singled out more than anybody else in the family.
That would
And
suck.
everybody else in the family kind of corroborated these things.
Yeah.
Now, this is a family who had a 320-acre farm in Tennessee in the early 1800s. So there is an aspect of this where we do have to mention they had slaves.
Sure.
Now, generally speaking, everything that we have written about John specifically is that he was not only a good man to his family and to the other people in the community, but also that he was a good man to his slaves, which I know is a bit of a contradiction to
Yeah.
a degree because he kept slaves.
Yeah. Yeah. Like he could have been a better man.
Yeah, he could
To
have been a
his
better
slaves.
man to
Yeah.
his slaves. But as far as slave owners go, and I'm not trying to diminish any of that or anything, but like
Yeah.
based on how people talked about him, he was like, if you had to be a slave to someone, he would have been a good person to be a slave to.
Now I do
guess.
have
I guess.
a follow-up question, which is
Yeah.
who was surveyed for this? Like, because if it's just his family and friends, white people, like, dude, if I was a slave, I would want that guy. Versus
Well,
like the
it was-
slaves being surveyed.
It was people who were writing about it in the 30s.
Okay.
So like 10 years after the story. So I believe one of them was a reporter with one of the local papers, and one of them was his son.
Okay.
So like there is definitely some bias
I
there
think so.
for sure.
Yeah.
And like I say, with a lot of historical stuff, it's hard to tell, but that's what we have. But they did have slaves.
Yeah.
They had a number of slaves. I don't know how many, but it wasn't like more than 10. I think they had a few, like 4 or 5 or something like that. But
Still
anyways,
an evil amount of slaves to own.
yes, still horrible. But like what I was saying with the number is that it's like not.
Like, they weren't a massive operation.
It wasn't a massive operation.
Yeah.
It was like a family, like a family sized group of slaves essentially is what they had, and I think they even were a family. Like I'm pretty sure. I don't know that for a fact.
Sure.
So don't quote me on that. But in 1818, things start to escalate even further to the point where they start to hear spoken words from whatever the spirit is, from whatever is haunting them and assailing Betsy specifically. They start to hear voices that they can understand. And it's to the point now where they're not the only ones experiencing these things. Whenever they would have visitors come out to the farm, they would hear the knocking, they would hear the scratches, they would hear the growlings, and they would even hear the voices as well. And they got to the point where they were like, they would speak to the entity, and the entity would speak to them, specifically calling them by name. It would make threats to people. It would say things that they thought were secret to people.
What
it
did
would
this thing sound like?
It sounded like a person, like a woman.
Okay.
Well, are you thinking like a deep voice speaking in Latin?
No, like I'm just like, did it sound like a man? Did it sound like a woman? Did it sound like multiple
Oh, yeah.
people? Like,
Yeah, it sounded well. So here, that's another thing. It mainly sounded like the same voice of the same woman most
Yeah.
of the time, but it would actually mimic the voices of other people, and it would mimic the voices of people that were not from the community.
weird
but
way to
that,
haunt.
like, well, so
I'm an
for example,
outsider.
well, at some point in all of this going on, and I was going to get to this later, but I'll go ahead and say it now. At
Yeah.
some point during all of this, there was this visitor, like from England, who stayed the night at the house at the farm because he was interested in it. And in the night, he was woken up by something shaking his bed. I appreciate that. But he woke up to
Yeah.
something shaking his bed, and then when he woke up,
Lizzie.
he heard what sounded exactly like his parents' voices talking to him.
He's a disappointment. Why
And
do you
the-
always say that?
I think it was saying something like that too, actually. But
I
here's
knew I'd
the
never
thing:
love
is
him.
he later reported that when he did visit his parents, during that same like night, they were woken up and they heard something talking in his voice in their house.
Interesting.
And so this voice, this spirit reportedly identified itself as Kate. It said, "I am the witch of Kate Batts." Now, Kate Batts was one of their neighbors,
Okay.
and she was a woman in town who, according to some accounts later compiled, is said to have had disputes or bad blood with John Bell specifically, but also just was generally not a well-liked person in the community, depending on what you read.
It's wild, like to have the last name Bats and choose to become a witch or whatever. Like get involved with witchcraft. Like this lady knew. She knew
Yeah,
what she was doing.
what is the thing about like names, like the power of your name or whatever, like that
Don't know.
psychological thing?
Yeah.
But anyways, she called herself the witch of Kate Batts, not meaning that she was dead, not meaning anything else, but just that this was something that like she had sent apparently. But that's not the only spirit that it claimed to be, and it actually was a while before they got the witch to admit that it was Kate Batts, and it referred to itself as Old Kate Batts. However, it is important to note that the contemporary 1818 documents don't mention that. This was in the later compiled story based on firsthand accounts of the children and of that reporter that I will get to later. But yeah, so, oh gosh, it's Martin V. Ingram who ended up writing the full book on this account. But yeah, so she actually at one point claimed to be the spirit of of a Native American who had been buried nearby, and claimed that somebody had stolen their tooth, and that's why they were acting up essentially. And they were like, if you return my tooth to my body, then you can I'll leave you or whatever.
Sure.
And kind of like sent the family on a wild goose chase to find the tooth in the rafters and in the boards of the house. They found what looked like it could have been a tooth, and they returned it to where they believed the gravesite was. And then the spirit just kind of made fun of them, continued to make fun of them and laugh at them.
You believed that? You idiot.
There was another account where the spirit convinced the sons of John Bell that it knew where buried treasure was and convinced them to go out to a specific area on the property and dig for this buried treasure. And they found nothing, obviously.
Oh man, picture this. This thing has only been antagonizing you for like a year or whatever. But then one day it says, "Hey man, I want you to know I only do this. I really like you, dude. I think you're great. I only do this because I think you're great. I think you've passed the challenge. Actually, go over there. go over there. Dig a little bit. See what you find. Yeah, I bet you'll find something." Sorry, I asked it to make the bunny crow really, really fat, and it did a wonderful job. If ever I am tasked with digging for something in the middle of nowhere, I hope this is what I find. Man, that's really funny though. Like the idea of a ghost just being a tool for fun. Sorry, witch being a tool for fun.
It really is. I mean, it starts out like it is antagonistic in ways that are harmful, specifically to Betsy.
Yeah, sucks to be Betsy.
But to everyone else, it's kind of just like being a tool.
Yeah.
It's like a little prankster. But here's the thing. Okay, so this is where it gets weird, though, is it would, like, tell stories. Like, it would go away. People would ask it questions about what was happening in other people's houses or whatever.
Yeah.
And it would, quote unquote, go away for a few minutes and then come back and say, this is what's happening. And then when questioned later, the people would be like, yeah, that was happening or whatever. And it was able to tell people like very specific things about themselves and about what other people in the town were doing. And like people in the community would just like come to the house to be like, I want to experience the witch. It was something that they thought was really interesting.
Hey,
there was one time.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Hey, witch, is my husband rolling around with Nessie right now? What's he doing? He said he was on a work trip. Where is he? Where?
He's in the Bay of Loch Ness.
I knew it.
He's with a log. It's actually a sea otter. It's the ghost of a whale.
No one tell him.
But yeah, so they would ask it questions and it would do that. And one of the things with a lot of spiritual beings, at least in the Christian understanding of things, is that if it's a demonic, they can like quote scripture and stuff like that, because obviously Satan twists scripture to try to convince us to do things that like that aren't actually in line with the heart of scripture. But they would, like, pastors and other people would start quoting scripture, and it would pick up and continue to quote the scripture, and it would have like arguments with people about how to interpret scripture, and it would do things along those lines that were just really odd to me. Like it enjoyed talking to people about, like, debating with people about theology.
This is just ChatGPT. Like, that's it.
It's just sassy chat GPT
Yeah.
that also pulls your hair.
Yeah. Again, sorry, Betsy. It really sucks to be you. Everyone else had a great time, apparently.
Toward the beginning. So, in 1819, we get to the point where people are coming from further away. It's not just the people who are in the community. People are starting to come from even hundreds of miles, potentially, to witness the alleged manifestations of the Bell Witch. The phenomena reportedly took many forms. Again, different types of weird, unnatural-looking animals appearing and disappearing. There would be unseen hands slapping people, chains rattling, voices speaking, and sometimes in multiple languages, sometimes multiple types of voices, but it was all from the same entity as far as they could tell. There was apparently some shape-shifting. There were a couple of accounts that include an entity appearing as a rabbit, black dog, or even a bear. But in 1819, a lot of the attention shifted away from Betsy to John Sr. To the point where it started to be very violent and aggressive with John. Now, reading some of the symptoms that he started to have when he was being hexed, I guess, when he was being attacked, he would start to struggle with speech. His posture would struggle. His posture would start to falter. Other things would happen, like he would be in constant pain. There were even some reports I heard just in videos I listened to where it almost sounded like he was suffering from Bell's palsy.
Interesting.
But obviously I can't say that for sure.
Yeah.
We can't
Not a doctor.
say anything definitively there. But you've got all of this going on where it's starting to be directed at John Bell, specifically John Bell Sr. And that's in 1819. Like I said, the attacks get weird. In 1820, we see a steep increase. She gets more vindictive, specifically towards John. She get like the witch gets more like angry at him, starts to like say, like threaten him overtly, like specifically with death even.
I have a theory.
Okay.
So Kate Batts, she has beef with the Bells, right?
Apparently.
And so she's like, I'm going to conjure a witch, and I'm going to send a witch to go show them what's what. That'll teach them. And then it becomes a tourist attraction. And like the whole time I was like, you've got the witch. We love the witch. And Kate Bass is like, you son of a... And then one day the witch is back in her house, and she's like, hey, real quick. What the F? What are you doing? Sorry, quick follow-up question. What are you doing? No. You're attacking a 12-year-old and flirting with everybody else. No. Kill the old man. So that's my theory.
Yeah. It's a fun theory. So this is a brief tangential historical note. John R. Bell, which is a different John Bell, not related to John Bell Sr. or John Bell Jr., is visiting. He was going through on Stephen H. Long's 1820 expedition, and he kept a journal. And in his October 19th of 1820 entry, was reportedly stopped in Robertson County and heard local talk about a girl who was accompanied by a voice. Specific, like that's it. That's what he heard. He heard people talking about this girl who was accompanied by a voice that wasn't hers. This anecdote later was linked to the Bell Witch legend for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And this is a corroborating contemporaneous reference to local stories about a talking female spirit, but it is not a first-hand account of the Bell household even. It's just people in the community who were talking about it.
Yeah.
So then, continuing in 1820, around December, according to the best-known narrative of the story, which again is the Ingram compilation, which comes from Richard William Bell's account. He was one of the young boys.
It's so wild to, like, you hear Richard William Bell and you're like, that's an old man.
Yeah.
But, like, he had to have been one of the boys at some point in his life.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
There are some names that, like, you were born old.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of them. The entity declared at one point that it was going to kill John Bell. Here's the fun part. At this time, they found a vial of poison in the house, and a local doctor, George B. Hobson,
George Doobie Hobson,
reportedly tested it by dropping a dropper on a cat, and the cat died instantly.
Man.
Yeah.
Great.
And apparently this poison that they found in the house was being used by the witch to poison John Bell.
Okay.
But they left it in the house.
Stupid witch.
But no, they found it and they didn't take it out of the house. They were like, oh, this witch is claiming it's going to kill John. We found a vial of poison.
He's been getting ill.
He's been getting ill.
He's not a cat.
And then on December 20th of 1820, John Bell dies.
How?
The legend states that he went into a coma on December 19th. Like he just slipped into the stupor and wouldn't wake up no matter what. And then the traditional accounts attribute his death to the witch or the poison of the witch. We have seen, like, this is the date that is corroborated based on family histories and based on the headstone is December 20th as his date of passing. After the funeral, the entity was said to have disrupted the service by singing bawdy songs and otherwise ridiculing the mourners.
Man. Kate Batts had a really good talk with that thing.
She really did.
Yeah.
So this is just a note on the sources that we have and reliability of the story.
Yeah.
The poisoning episode and the witch's role in his death are central to the legend as recorded by Martin Ingram, whose story on this account, whose account of this story came out in 1894, so quite a bit later. Family narratives attributed to Richard Williams Bell, which was one of the sons. Those narratives were recorded many decades after everything happened. And so scholars treat them like folklore that mixes with actual family history, like a story that you're telling that you've embellished over the years,
sure.
Pretty much. So that's the general historical take on this is either you wholesale believe in it, you don't believe in any of it, or you believe it's a mixture of fact and some tall tale, like some legend mixed in there as well.
That feels like all the options.
Yeah, that's the options.
Or you believe that it was the ghost.
The ghost of a whale beast.
Yeah. So I guess there's a fourth option.
But this is not the it. She did officially kill John, but she was not done tormenting Betsy at this point.
Now, I guess the disembodied slaps kind of take away this possibility. Is there any chance that, like, this was a slave getting revenge?
So that's possible. It's possible. It's also possible. Now, because the accounts we have are from a reporter decades after the fact.
Yeah.
And from Sun.
Yeah.
Like, it's possible that, like, he just remembered his father fondly.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the documentary Just Melvin, Just Evil?
Nope.
So it's a documentary that's really atrocious. about this like stepfather who abused like all of his kids, pretty much all of his stepkids, except for one of his stepsons. And his stepson like really looks back on him really fondly, but everyone else is like really messed up because of him. And so it could be that his dad really wasn't a great guy, but he just got treated well by him.
Yeah.
And it could be that the wife poisoned him. It could be that like Betsy poisoned him. It could like there's so many factors to what could have been,
Yeah.
and you can like tease your way into any of them.
Yeah.
Just by looking at stuff. But the accounts don't stop after his death. It's the thing. They keep going. So in 1821, after John Bell's death, the spirit continues to harass family members for a time. She particularly took interest in Betsy Bell. Now, in 1817, she would have been 12. So in 1821, she would be like,
17.
what, 17? Okay. So
16.
in 1816, in 1821, Betsy Bell gets engaged
Okay. All right.
to Joshua Gardner, who was one of her childhood friends. So we can assume they were at least close in age.
Yeah, how precious.
Right.
Sure.
So that's less weird. Still weird. Not like it was a 30-year-old man or something.
This is my childhood friend. He is my grandpa's age.
But apparently, Kate Batts did not like this engagement.
Of course.
And in the words of this article, campaigned against it.
Right. Everyone,
She's doing a smear campaign.
If you could just sign your name on this piece of paper, that will make sure that this little girl who I despise can't marry the man she loves. Thanks.
Yeah, pretty much. And it did eventually end the relationship.
Yikes.
They broke off the engagement because of Kate Batts. The legend, the story also includes the fact that the entity, Kate Batts, promised to return in a set number of years. Now, depending on the story, it's like 7 years or 100 years.
Cool.
But according to a lot of the main story that most of this is based on, she did return 7 years later. And the family experienced the knocking, the scratching, the chain dragging and stuff again. But it was much more mild. And after that, it just kind of ended.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned earlier, most of our story is from Martin Ingram. His name was Martin Van Buren Ingram. In 1894, he published An Authenticated History of the Famous Bell Witch, which compiles family narratives, especially material ascribed to Richard Williams Bell, which might have been a grandson, not a son.
Okay.
But he was a member of the Bell family, and local oral tradition put it all into one place, and this text popularized the story nationally. There is his book is the source that moved the tale from regional folklore to widely circulated American ghost story.
He calls it famous.
Many specific details, like the Kate Batts identification and something we're about to talk about, are preserved and amplified in his book. But because he published it decades after the event and relied on oral and family accounts, like I said, historians kind of just treat it as it's more of a legend than a story. There were contemporary accounts referencing this, but they weren't extensive, not nearly as extensive as his story. So like there were people who came through who wrote in their own journals or in their own writings about like the young girl who had a voice with her, who was accompanied by a voice, or who mentioned that they had heard weird things at a specific farm in this area of Tennessee or whatever, but nothing as specific as the story.
Yeah.
Now, this is in Ingram's account, and in other later retellings, there is a letter that relays an anecdote that Andrew Jackson visited the farm.
Wild.
Apparently, he visited the Bell place with an armed party to see the phenomena himself. The story says that his wagon got stuck and an unseen voice taunted him, and that his men and himself were ridiculed and they were scared off by the entity.
Picture this. You're the witch of Kate Batts, and she's just called you in for a meeting. She's like, hey, I just I wanted to check in on how things are going. So I sent you there a few weeks ago, kind of scare him, punch Betsy around a little bit, that jerk. And I really do. You've been doing great work on Betsy.
The president showed up? The president of the United States of America is at their house? He went to their house? Get it together.
Yeah, so the thing is, careful historians, like people who actually look at where Andrew Jackson was at different periods of his career and life, and are able to do that, specifically people like Benjamin Radford and Brian Dunning, have found no contemporary documentary evidence that Andrew Jackson was there, let alone that he would have been in that area at the time, because his movements during those years are pretty well documented, and an encounter like this would most likely have left traces.
Yeah,
Like, it would have been recorded somewhere.
I believe it.
So most scholars, even the ones that lean toward believing that a lot of the story is true, mostly at least, think that this is an embellishment that was added later to make the story bigger,
That makes sense.
to make it, just to make it more legendary. Now, post all of this, the Bell Witch story has continued to be a part of local lore.
Okay.
To the point where you can go. I don't think you can go to the farm necessarily, but you can go to Bell Witch Cave, and it's a cave in Adams, Tennessee, that is related to the haunting somehow.
I gave you 2 rules. Beat the snot out of that 12-year-old girl, and don't conjure any caves.
Don't conjure any.
2 rules. Again, excellent job beating up that little girl. Wonderful work. But what's this on?
I enjoy a good ghost episode.
So says that I'm on their website right now. I'm on the Historic Bell Witch Cave website. It says the Historic Bell Witch Cave Incorporated has preserved some of the artifacts from the original Bell cabin, such as a chimney stone and an iron kettle. You can see these items along with news articles, photos, and other artifacts from the time period in which John Bell and his family resided here when touring the reconstructed John Bell cabin. It doesn't say how it's connected to the cave.
I mean, I'm sure it's just like on the property, and then the house got torn down. They're like, well, we'll put this stuff somewhere.
It has to be. It has to be. Well, okay, so I think part of the story is that, like, some people think that how it all got started is that John Bell had gone into the cave because it was on the property and released an evil spirit or something, or that's where people were buried or whatever, because people investigate it and claim that it's one of the most haunted caves in the United States. Now, by the way, that's just a funny statement of caves being like the most haunted caves in the United States.
Have you checked
Like,
all of them?
dude, hey, there's a surprising, you can look this up. If you compare maps of people who go missing, like that aren't later found, with maps of cave systems in the United States, they overlap very heavily. Just some food for thought.
Think about that next time, John.
Think about that next time, John.
Kate is like, beat up the 12-year-old, put the man in a cave. That's it. That's it. Bully the 12-year-old. Put him in a cave. Don't
make
kill
sure
him.
she never gets married. Don't let her get married.
Don't let her get married. Like, make her life a living hell. Send him there. Like,
poison him. So one of the descendants of John Bell wrote a book called The Bell Witch, A Mysterious Spirit in 1934, which gave additional family stories that had been passed down over the years. The area around the Bell Farm, including the Bell Witch Cave near Adams, became a tourist and folklore site. The cave and the farm operate today as a historic tourist site. That's just repeating the thing. The story has continued to be retold and adapted in movies, music, and pop culture. For instance, the Blair Witch Project is loosely based on the story of the Bell Witch Cave.
That makes sense.
Or the Bell Witch. And so you've got some other things. Atlas Obscura and other modern outlets note that Ingram's 1894 book is the foundational text for almost every story that we have of this. So that's the core story of the Bell Witch Cave. Of the Bell Witch haunting, which is now the Bell Witch Cave, which you can go tour, which I think the idea of haunted tours is so interesting to me. Also, it's only 40 minutes away from Nashville, so it was much closer than I thought it was.
Yeah, you totally could have gone to that.
Totally could have. Kind of glad I didn't, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm not much of one for. I did a haunted castle tour once in Springfield. They've got, it's like Pythian Castle or something like that, and yeah.
So, DJ, where do you think you kind of land on that spectrum just after kind of hearing the story?
On the spectrum? One time, sorry, you said we should end this. I'm not ending it. One time we were doing a work thing. It might have just even been around Christmas. I can't remember. At one point, I came into the office and I think I referred to something like existing on a spectrum, or like me existing on like some spectrum.
Yeah.
And my boss said, and I quote, "Did you say you're on the spectrum? Quick show of hands. Who thinks DJ is on the spectrum?" And he's a 65-year-old man.
Oh, my word.
And like that's not our relationship at all.
I have I told you what Connor from Patriot Angel's nickname was for me? It was Comcast. I was writing down notes about how many calls I made, how many calls I took, how many people answered, how many times I had to leave voicemails, how many people said yes, how many people said no to what we did. I was making my own notes for it and the reasons why. And he came up and saw my notes because I was curious.
Sweet.
I was just curious, and I wanted to have statistics.
Yeah.
I wanted to know how much time I was spending on the phone and how many.
Yep.
And he came over, saw my notepad, saw the notes on it, and it was like, "I'm going to start calling you Comcast." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Because they used to be owned by Spectrum."
It's really fun.
And so anytime I would have a moment where I was doing something
Vaguely autistic,
he'd be like, "Okay, Comcast," and then just move on.
That's really funny. Was he your boss?
No,
Okay.
he was just one of the guys working in a cubicle near mine.
Great. Love that.
He really pushed for me to get into 40K, actually.
Oh yeah,
And that guy, yeah.
He commented on an episode once.
He's commented on a couple, I think.
What do I think about the Bell Witch? Sounds like a real jerk, a real piece of work. Maybe, hey, Katie Batts, maybe just finish the job yourself next time. Like, I bet you can pull yourself together and bully a 12-year-old for a year and poison her dad. How hard can it be?
And then ruin her chance at falling in love.
Easy. You think you can't ruin a 16-year-old's relationship? Like, I feel like that has to be the age of relationship that's easiest to ruin. Like,
I was say, you just have to watch from a distance and they'll do it themselves.
yeah, or like just start a little lie. Just a little lie. And gone. The whole thing. So easy. And like, bullying a 12-year-old girl? Like, you didn't even have to hit her. Like, there are so many ways to bully a 12-year-old girl. It's like, it's easy. A little harder to poison dad. But they left the poison in the house, so they're idiots. So, like, you probably could have pulled it off, is all I'm saying. So that's my stance. Katie Batts could have done it on her own. Kate? Catherine? She could have done it on her own. Yeah, as far as the validity of all that, I mean, you get one article from like 60 years later or whatever from the grandson, and like no one else. And there's a lie about like the president came to visit. Like, why would that be the only lie you tell about this whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I don't know, dude. I think it makes every story better. When I was 3 years old, I got my head stuck in an elevator, and then George Bush visited.
The elevator is like, I had one job.
Okay, in 99, was he the president or was that still Clinton?
Would have been Clinton.
Okay, and then Clinton visited me in the hospital.
The future ghost of George W. Bush visited.
This is the ghost of George Bush future.
Dude, life is going to be so awesome after I am not elected. Give it a couple of years. It's going to be really great for, like, everything's going to feel really optimistic for, like, 8 years. And then things are going to feel really pessimistic for a while.
Anyways, I think that this story is mostly legend with some bits of truth to it. I think it's possible that the family did experience some weird things, but they just really embellished it.
Yeah.
For the sake of the book. And it's not that I don't trust the people, like the family members necessarily who are behind the writing of the story, but it's also generations, like literally a generation or two removed. Like there are all kinds of stories I hear about old family members that I guarantee are not, that are embellished. I guarantee. Like there's a story of my great grandpa one time popped his kneecap out of place and apparently just grabbed it and pushed it back and kept doing what he was doing. Like, I've seen someone do that before. They did not keep doing what they were doing.
Was it when Hector put Clayton's leg back where it belonged?
No, it was Isaiah when he hit his knee on the doorpost with Dylan Bone. Yeah.
Good times.
Djibouti.
Djibouti.
Also, everything about college was weird.
It's true. Anyways, thank you guys. What are you into, Gage?
I am into the Bigfoot research kit.
Mm-hmm.
Famous for being a centerpiece of our episode on Bigfoot.
So true. Famous.
Pick it up at a flea market near you.
That video has been viewed
7 times.
7 times. Big deal. Blowing up, Mom.
Hey, but remember when we told Alec that a blow up for us would be 6 people or whatever?
Yeah, we added 7.
We added 7.
This thing is finally paying off. Just kidding. It paid off the first episode.
Yeah. What are you into?
It's been a long week since last episode, but I am still into Sriracha. So, really been enjoying it. They're actually not a sponsor of the show, and I love their sauce. Still not a sponsor.
Still not a sponsor.
I'll read the description for you guys. Sriracha, there's like sauce on it. There we are. Sriracha, made from sun-ripened chilies, is ready to use in soups, sauces, pasta, pizza, hot dogs, hamburgers, chow mein. The poison that you give to a man when you really don't like his family and you've been bullying his daughter for a while. Or on anything else to add a delicious spicy taste. This is what it says. I don't know. Anyways, I like Sriracha. It mostly likes me, so kind of a match made in heaven. I've been playing on Game Boy Advance. I've been playing Advance Wars, and I had never played it before. Super fun game. Really enjoy it. That's what I'm into. Sriracha and Advance Wars on the Game Boy Advance.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us.
Wait.
I don't know how much of this episode...
Oh, you already said what you're into. I'm sorry. My fault. I forgot the Bigfoot kit.
That's fair. I will say another one. 21 Pilots just dropped a new album today. So many bands dropped albums today. Did I say music in the last one? Yeah, I did. Fox Royale's new song.
Yeah.
21 Pilots, Breach. It's really good. It's actually my favorite of their last 3 albums, and it's not close. So it really takes me back to Blurry Face, but it's got some vibes that are new, that are just really fun. So, high key recommend if you like them. Even if you don't, it just kind of like took me back to the type of stuff I really liked in college. So that was nice.
That's fun.
Anyways, thank you guys for hanging out with us. I don't know how much of this episode is actually going to go. This is going to be like a 20-minute episode, and we're sitting at the hour 40 mark. So,
if you do the math on when we record our episodes, there's been a lot of world history this past week, and we spent a lot of time talking, just shooting the breeze about that instead of talking about the Bell Witch. So, enjoy our dregs.
We also talked about ex-girlfriends.
We did talk about ex-girlfriends.
Anyways, thank you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thank you to Jared Scrother, Jacob Casey, Adam Ward, all of you guys for being just the awesome guys you are and being involved with us in whatever way you are. This has been Everything But the Cats. If you enjoy us, please subscribe. Follow along so that you don't miss out on future episodes. If you like hanging out, let us know. We might be able to have you on an episode. We think it's really cool because this is an opportunity to hang out with old friends and make new ones. And we would love to add you to that Rolodex. Do you even know what a Rolodex is? I barely do.
We're young.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're old, but also young.
We're not 30 yet.
Yeah.
It's creeping.
It's creeping up. Garrett is.
Yeah. Peepaw Garrett.
People Garrett.
Yeah, so anyways, as always, we really do appreciate you guys. But that means nothing from me. You don't even know me. Do you know the secrets I keep from you guys? No. That's why they're secrets. So, my thanks mean nothing. But thanks to the power of the internet, you can always, always, always go thank yourselves. I love you. Have a good week.